If you and your domestic pet were stranded somewhere with no food or water, but tools to light a fire, would you do the unthinkable and use your friend to the best of your ability? That question always creeps up in my mind whenever I think about Dungeon Meshi. Studio Trigger are working on this anime, the same studio that worked on Kill la Kill, Star Wars Visions, Cyberpunk Edgerunners and many more. I'm going to quickly run through what I think of the story, characters, art and sound. Let's get down to it. In this fantasy world, a human knight called Lewis and his party are exploring a dungeon where a red dragon attacks them on one of the floors. In the moment the dragon grabs Lewis's mage sister and is about to eat her, she casts a spell that sends the remaining party back outside. Determined to save his sister from being completely digested by the dragon, Lewis and the party members who did not choose to abandon him after the incident head back into the dungeon to prevent such a gruesome fate for their party member. The problem is, they are really short on money and resources, so their only option is to survive on the dungeon pillage. And almost every living thing in there are either monsters or mutant variants of living species that they wouldn't consider to eat in normal circumstances. The beginning of the story is very much as episodic and formulaic as you can get. The damsel in distress has been captured by the enemy and it's the hero or hero party's job to get her back. Each episode they enter a new section of the dungeon and they are tasked with a problem to solve. In this show, the problem ends up being how do the party secure their next meal. As I was reading the first few chapters, I thought I'd end up getting bored, but for some reason that never ended up happening. This is probably to do with the world building implemented with some thought to it, with the most consistent element being the methodology of cooking dungeon monsters. In the beginning, they also touch on the fact that you can die and come back to life, just like in an RPG, but being resurrected after being digested is unheard of. They didn't delve deeper into that, but leaves you to believe that so long as the body is still intact, the person occupying the body can return. Hence why saving the main character's sister is still a possibility. I like a well-written world, but I also don't appreciate exposition that seems like it's more for us as opposed to the character receiving the world lesson. Dungeon Meshi manages to find that balance of piecing together information about the world at the right times without absolutely overloading us. This made me look forward to the next time the show reveals another piece of info on how the world of Dungeon Meshi works. If you can get past the show's low stakes atmosphere, there's a good chance that you'll enjoy this. And at the time of recording this video, we're not even halfway through the season. I'm currently reading ahead, and from what I've heard from others who have finished the series, the themes explored eventually get a lot deeper. The main cast includes a human knight, an elven mage, a halfling thief, and a dwarven warrior. Yeah, generic fantasy roster, I know. The major irony in all this is that the most normal personalities are Martial and Chilchuck, the elf and the halfling who tend to snap and moan. The ones that are more quirky or psychopathic are Knight Lewis and Dwarf Senshi. Lewis has a long enduring curiosity about tasting monster flesh, while you have Senshi who is at the far end of that spectrum, effectively being the monster gourmet chef. Senshi is in fact central to most of the comical moments. Probably my favourite and funniest moment exemplifies how he is different from the rest of the main cast, and despite witnessing such a terrible thing happening, his orientation towards the other races forces them to shrug off the terrible incident as a matter-of-fact occurrence. I won't spoil it for those who haven't watched the show yet, but it's in episode 4. The team of 4 have a goofy aspect or two about themselves that somehow makes for a lively and entertaining group to watch. The animation can sometimes look low budget, though I think that the art style and the paneling of the manga kind of force Studio Trigger to be more imaginative with the dynamic set pieces, which is sometimes not a good thing. At least that's how I felt during some of the sequences in the first episode. It looks like the animators found their feet since the movement looks more polished as the show goes on. Hopefully there will be less to moan about by the time we are towards the end of the season. Despite what I've just said, I do like the character designs. I'm always welcoming to anything that doesn't look generic, and this easily gets a passing mark in that regard. The music and sound in this show are fine. Strictly fantasy anime shows tend to love their string instruments and piano pieces, and this is no different. I wouldn't say it reinforces the scenes, but it gets points for not taking me out of the immersion. There haven't been a lot of emotional scenes to allow for the music to reach its potential, so there's that to consider. Overall, this is a fun little watch. By the time the show reaches its end, there will be a lot to watch as we're currently at episode 7 of a 23 episode season. It's not got crazy action scenes or moving emotional set pieces yet. The "ew, I don't want to eat that" gag gets old really quick, but I appreciate it that it's added a spin to an otherwise very common goal in an adventure story in all mediums. If you end up liking it after 3 episodes, then watch the whole show. If you're not into it and you're not trying to hear the promises of what manga readers have to say about what's to come after that, skip it. Oh, and to answer my question at the beginning, due to my life literally being on the line in that situation, yes I would, but begrudgingly eat my pet cat. Sorry, Smokey, nothing personal. You guys can discredit the survival element in that scenario and kill me in the comments. For now, this is where I'll end it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Helps the channel get seen more with this vid getting thrown around in the algorithm a little longer, and I'd really appreciate it. See ya!